Hello everyone, and welcome to the showdown between the Warriors of Chaos led by Kolek Suneater and Bretonnia, who's going to be led by King Louis. So in this match, rather than really trying to contest the open field and maybe play the Cav game a little bit, because Chaos does have the capabilities of fighting Bretonnian Cav, Chaos Knights are very powerful, you have Dragon Ogres, you of course have Shaggots and Lore of Death, but I still in this match really wanted to try and have a bit of a Helm's Deep formation, so having a big infantry core. You can see in the front line I have 3 Chaos Warriors with great weapons, which will trade pretty well with most Bretonnian infantry. They obviously do outclass foot squires, but again, they are more expensive, but they'll do well against squires. They have enough armor to be durable against battle pilgrims and men-at-arms and low-tier troops like that. So I feel like they're a pretty safe pick in the front line. But like I said before, I really wanted to try a bit of a Helm's Deep strategy. A bit of a tongue twister saying that one quickly. But chosen with halberds. So these guys obviously can outclass pretty much all of the Bretonnian infantry. 36, 54, 46 for their combat stats on 120 armor. And on top of that, if you're in a relatively tight formation, they do very, very well against large targets. And most high-level Bretonnian players that I've run into on ladder are just going to bring, a couple foot squires, maybe like 3 or 4, and some chaff infantry, but they're really going to win the game through their cav. So having these guys with charge defense, amazing armor values, and anti-large, I feel is going to be pretty powerful. So we have 2 of those. We also have Kolek Suneater, who I think is by far the best pick. The Bretonnians, in order to take down Kolek, they really need to get a good surround on him. And that's a little bit tricky because the Chaos Infantry is more durable than the Bretonnian Infantry, and he has 100 armor, so Bretonnian missiles aren't going to do a whole lot against him. I personally think one of the best ways to deal with Kolek is just to try and overwhelm the Chaos Infantry with superior numbers, and then of course have him surrounded by like halberds or Grail Knights towards the end of the game. But regardless, it's relatively tough, and Kolek is going to have the advantage in most dueling situations. He's also joined by his fellow Dragon Ogre Shaggoth here, and this guy only has 70 armor, so he's going to be a little bit more susceptible to taking arrow fire. And if you look at, well, those are questing knights over there, but I think there's some Grail Knights in the back. They have, anti-large and do have pretty good weapons ranked at 38, so they can definitely do pretty well against the Shaggoths if they can get us around. We also have a Deathcaster, which is pretty much a must in this matchup. It just says Fate of Buna is so good against heavy elite cav. You obviously aren't going to be using it against Bretonnian infantry, but I think that's pretty much a must in a competitive matchup. We also do have Forsaken here in the back, and I wanted to bring one group. I think bringing multiple groups is a little bit risky, because like I said, most Bretonnians are going to have Questing Knights and Grail Knights, and Forsaken just get massacred by Questing Knights. Questing Knights have massive, really good AP, a good charge bonus, and can just ride these guys down. So I think having one group is okay, but overextending into them is a little bit risky. So for my opponent over here, he does have a King Louis. Aside from that, he does have Force Foot Squires, which I like quite a bit. He's got one group of Peasant Archers just to keep me honest in the back. It looks like a Peasant Mob, and I think for his he has Lore of Heavens. Let's actually see what abilities he has. So I think he has Harmonic Convergence, which is always a good choice, and Euron and Thunderbolt, which I haven't seen, so I'm pretty excited to see how that does in this game. I haven't really seen that ability used since the first game. So 2 groups of Questing Knights and Grail Knights, so it looks like he does have a symmetrical formation here. He has Grail Knights and Questing Knights and Grail Knights and Questing Knights. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. So right now I'm just advancing, and you can see my opponent's kind of splitting up his army into 2 areas, which is going to be tricky for a formation like mine, because I have a very kind of army I need to stay high and tight. I can't really afford to kind of split my forces, because if I do that, then his cav are simply going to ride me down and isolate my troops. In the meantime, you can see King Louis is going to be prowling in the back, looking for an opportunity to strike, and I did use the Forbidden Rod because I started with I think 8 or 9 winds of magic, and I really wanted to get to that Fate of Buna pretty quick, but man, that actually does a ton of damage. I was not expecting that. So I go ahead here, and I'm trying to get the Fate of Buna on those Grail Knights. So I decided to send some hounds in to just feast on the peasants, and they're going to be fighting these dogs off with their rakes and stuff. But you can see the Bretonnian Knights are quick to jump in there and help, so they get in there and get a nice little charge on my poor Chaos puppies. But I do have some Chaos Warriors as well as the Shaggoths who are going to be coming up here and hopefully able to kind of clean up a little bit. So my Chaos Warriors here are going to be pushing in. It looks like Fate of Buna is going to be going down on the Grail Knights, and the Shaggoths do cleave a couple of those Knights, and also Fate of Buna is going down. And the Halberds and these Chaos Warriors should just make quick work of those Foot Squires. In the front here, it's a bit of a monster mash. You can see the Bretonnian Knights have pushed my Hounds off, but the Chaos Warriors have now gotten in here. And with 3 Chevrons and pretty good AP values, they should trade very effectively with Grail Knights. Not so much with Questing Knights, but definitely with Grail Knights. So Kolek and company, you can see they're cleaning up some of the knights on the periphery who overcharged. My Deathcaster, I'm just being very conservative with him, making sure to keep him near the Shaggoths, and because I knew Louis was just circling in the air, and it looks like Louis actually did land, and I think he took some damage from some of those halberds. I think he landed amongst some of the halberds, or on the Forsaken over here, and did take a lot of damage there. But thankfully for my opponent, he does have regeneration. In the meantime, Chaos Warriors over here are trading effectively. You can see these Foot Squires are down to 65 models to 58, but my Chaos Warriors have been taking heavy cycle charging. In the middle, these peasant mobs obviously buckled, and the Knights of Bretonnia were pushed back on the far side. These 2 are somewhat healthy, 41 and 41 here. And over here, it looks like these ones really took a pounding. So these Grail Knights with the Fate of Buna, and also having to fight these Chosen with Halberds. You can see the Chosen in here are just going to be monster mashing these Knights. Definitely generating some pretty good value. But the bounce power is very even at this point. no clear advantage for anyone. Very, very good cycle charging by my opponent here, getting in here with the Questing Knights and just charging down some of my Chaos Warriors in the back. So that's great, like Bretonnian play 101. Like create a wide formation, then take advantage of your Knights and your mobility to isolate those very heavy troops that are slow and kind of grindy. As such, I decided to kind of pile my forces into the middle. I didn't want to have my chosen and elite troops get picked off, so I just kind of started to stack all my important stuff in the middle, figuring that with the durability of the chosen and my other Shaggas and things like that, I could kind of just hold here and slowly pick the army apart. So you can see the Chaos Warriors here are fighting against the Foot Squires. In terms of just like pure cost effectiveness, this isn't great for me because chosen with halberds obviously should be fighting large units, but still it is certainly better than nothing. So Kulak's coming in with the Lord of the Storm. The Foot Squires take a ton of damage. They take about 700 damage there. You can see the Quest Knights are going to be charging in, but I mean, yeah, I wasn't braced for that because I think they actually have to be like facing and prepared for it. So I'm still going to be taking some charge damage, but we do have the Mountain God himself in here, so he's got his big old hammer and he's gonna have a good time. So King Louis lands back here. He does get the Spirit Leech on him, but Kulak's he's up to the task to fight. And it's a little bit of a risky engagement bringing Louis in here. I would probably, opt to like pick off some stuff on the periphery, make sure these chosen and other guys don't come back here. But although, yeah, I guess at this time he's going for an Alpha Strike, which I can't blame him. But here's some Spearmen at Arms are coming in, some Grail Knights and some other troops like that. You can see King Louis is going to be forced to retreat. He's nowhere near his healing cap, so he could definitely heal up and get some good cycle charges. And it looks like he did some decent damage to Kulak, so that was probably a worthwhile trade. In the main fight here, you can see the Chosen and some of these Chaos Warriors are just fighting off the hordes of Foot Squires and just this meat grinder of just halberds and great weapons. And yeah, that's why I love Chaos. Their infantry are so damn cool, but it's pretty awesome. I mean, I don't know what changes. I guess Chosen got some general stat buffs in some of the recent Mortal Empires, and I don't think they got anything in the Rise of the Tomb Kings. But anyways, the Chaos Forces are just holding here. You can see the Chosen have 53 models. Lewin coming in for another charge, and it looks like there's going to be Uranan's Thunderbolt coming down. So let's actually see how this does. I'm pretty blobbed up here. It gets in there, and it does okay damage. I don't think it's quite as good as other bombardment abilities like the Burning Bolt or anything, but it only costs 6 Winds of Magic, and honestly, if you get a couple kills from Chosen with that, it's definitely worth it. So in the meantime, my opponent doing a very good job just kind of riding down my troops on the periphery, so you can see that the Chaos Warriors with great weapons are getting run down by some of those knights and getting pushed off. In the meantime, my Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, so Kulak's little brother, is going to be going after the Damsel. And this definitely looks like a mismatch, I would have to say. So the Shaggoth is going to make sure to get rid of that caster, which is going to shut down Harmonic Convergence, and it looks like the caster should break. King Louis and the knights are coming to the rescue here, but the caster actually shatters, which is so good because I don't really have to worry about that. And these Grail Knights and King Lewin are very beat up, so honestly I think staying here and fighting the Shaggoth is really risky. You can see King Lewin does take an attack right there and pops the Lion's Shield, so just in case there was like a Fate of Una coming or something, it would give resist. Also, the Shaggoth is going to turn its attention to the Grail Knights, but my opponent here, obviously realizing that it's not a good engagement, is going to pull back. In the meantime, some Forsaken are coming back. I had them overchase some archers, and it looks like they shattered them and some of those other troops. I tried to get them back, but they kind of got picked apart pretty hard by these Quest Knights. But I still have this very scary Death Star. So you can see Kulak and the Halberds are just holding. And man, they were like fully surrounded by Foot Squires. And now you can see it's just a pile of Bretonnians around them, and they are just marching forth. So we're going to go try and get some of these Knights here. Obviously, I can't catch too many of his troops. I'm a relatively slow army here. But Kulak is 78 speed compared to 75. So Kulak actually could catch any of these troops on the battlefield. In the meantime, I think King Louis was chasing off some of my other halberds back there, those Chaos Warriors, and he does shatter them, which is pretty good. He is getting closer to his healing cap, but he still definitely has the potential of healing. So right there, those Knights try and cycle charge in, but of course, Kulak being a very, very fast lord is able to catch them and get a good poundage. And now it's good judgment time for these Foot Squires here. So they're definitely in the wrong neighborhood. And somehow my Deathcaster is still alive, which is definitely very nice, because I believe I had enough Winds of Magic to cast one more, not Fate of Una, but a Spirit Leech here. So I'm trying to get these Chosen back, and right here you can see King Lewin's going to be coming in and trying to keep them off, but I do get my Deathcaster charging in and the Shaggoth, and it looks like King Louis is able to pick some of those Chosen up and deal with them, but he is just in the wrong neighborhood. So right now King Louis is going to try and turn and run. That is almost like the meme where like you see something behind the character and it's like you're in the wrong neighborhood. You just see Kulak's just glowing eyes in the back, and this one brave Chosen of Chaos is going to be holding King Lewin, but it looks like he just knocks him over and doesn't care. I don't know if Lewin's going to be able to get away. 205 HP, and he does. The Knights of Bretonnia coming in for a very heroic save on their king. They might not have saved the other peasants, but they'll certainly save the king. But a Spirit Leech goes down, and King Lewin does fall to the desert. Definitely tried his hardest there. Some of these Knights are coming in to try and do some last-minute charges, and they definitely get a really nice, juicy charge on those Chosen, but Chosen with halberds here, like, how many models do I have? I think it's like 10 models left, and they're still, like, confident or eager. 18 models, which is crazy. So at this point, it's basically just cleanup duty. You can see the Shaggoths are just going to ride around with the Chosen, and the Bretonnian forces are trying to scatter and just pick off troops, as I move after different groups and whatnot. But every time they come in, the Shaggoths are getting a little bit of value, and we're just moving towards the main formation to shadow those guys. And at that point, that's going to be all she wrote for Bretonnia. So let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown, guys, and see what worked. Chosen with Halberds, definitely MVPs. Chaos Warriors got rode down pretty hard by the Questing Knights. Definitely some very, very good Questing Knight play. And the Chosen with Halberds obviously did well, 114, 41. And I like that. I mean, you can play... I mean, I could have potentially gotten like a Chaos Knight with some Poison Hounds, but really I think he would have just outclassed me there. He would have just had the Grail Knights and, an overwhelming force, especially with King Lewin, who can really get into those cav fights very effectively. So I think that this was a pretty good build. The Shaggas, I think, are great, very durable against Bretonians. They have to essentially be surrounded by the cav, and if you stack them on top of like Halberds and Chosen and things like that, they're going to be pretty strong. So let's go ahead and take a look. I mean, I liked my opponent's army, and there's rumor has it this was the mighty Gabo King. It's a conspiracy in the Discord chat, but he is also playing under names now. So make sure to go check out his channel. But we're going to take a look at his army. I like Lewin and the Heavens Caster. Harmonic Convergence is always pretty good in these situations. Life Caster would have been good as well with like Elite Cab, but I think he was just trying out something new. Foot Squires, I'm a fan. I definitely like to have Foot Squires and a couple Halberds with like a Grail Reliquary or something. Foot Squires trade somewhat effectively for their costs, and if you sack a Grail Reliquary, they really fight to the bitter end. And I also, my personal preference is to use a couple Halberds, like 2 or 3 with polearms there in the back, which in a very long, atrocious game are something that could potentially take down a Shaggoth for a much cheaper cost. I mean, I think they would lose 1-1, but you guys get what I'm saying. But yeah, I like the army for sure. So very well played. My opponent, or perhaps the Gabo King, it's going to be a great mystery here. Would you like some candy? I look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the Warriors of Chaos in action. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.